Okay. In theory, there should be, I am live, but I don't know the link yet. If you'll hang tight with me for a minute, I will try and get that out. Share, copy link, and let me text that to you, Attila. So hang tight, everybody, if you happen to find it. Yay! So Renee found it. I've texted the link to Attila so he can share it out in one of the other streams because it only took like 9 million. I don't know what's with it. It is so picky today, and it was stuck telling me it couldn't connect, and then it was telling me it was live, but it wasn't live. Thank you. It's an entire peasant dress, but I can't stand up. So, but I will just chat for a little bit so people can find the stream in like 9 million little different, oh, it started, it stopped, it started, it stopped. The only comfort I have is that at least I know this is not the first time it's happened, and it hasn't happened just to me. I hope you had a good birthday. So it's live. Thanks. Yeah, I was inspired by Chris Bear's green screen, and so we got it all set up, and actually, kudos to Attila. He got the backdrop. And so we fought with like all kinds of crazy stuff today, lights, and working on it. Thanks, Hoofing It. And hey, Kat, I'm glad to see that you found a new stream. Technical difficulties. And hard to believe that I work in IT, right? Oh, that's right, the smoked oysters. Kat, Dem Bones and Hungry Heath and the warden should be here soon. I hope they'll find the stream shortly. But they had smoked oysters this evening. I was having a lot of envy. So, and if you don't know about Hungry Heath's channel, they go live on Friday. Oh, awesome! And on Friday nights, and last night they ate hot wings, and absurdly hot, and almost actually I guess that was 2 nights ago. All my days are mixed up. Hi Susan, nice to see you. So I'm glad I finally got this going. For the life of me, I don't know what is the big deal with it, but crazy times. So I'm gonna make a Turkish coffee. Hey, the warden, nice to see you. But we'll let a couple more people join before I get all crazy. Oh, please. Obviously, you haven't paid enough attention to me. Renee mentions there, they said some swear words, but honestly, I actually thought the craziest part was that weird grifter that we had in the chat. What was up with that? Oh, and Hungry Heath mentions that they've got pork burnt ends in the smoker. That sounds amazing. Yeah, that was a lot of keto chows. I'm glad to hear that it was really only 1 serving, but made into 4 shakes, because I can't imagine. I'm like, 4 keto chows, my stomach hurts. Hey, Caboodle Bri, nice to see you. Now it's me giving the thumbs up to Attila, he, and the kid, and 9 million people are all outside doing trick or treat. And I was going to live stream out there, but realized that with kids and candy grabbing and my little dog dressed up as a piece of sushi, it was going to be way too crazy. That's true. Once you start getting little spammers and stuff like that. Thank you. I think it's hilarious that it's festive, because obviously you guys don't watch a lot of artsy, weird, esoteric horror films. It's a riff off the Midsummer. which I forced my family to watch this morning, and they were like, "Why are you making us watch this? It's so distressing." I say, my job is done. So I'll start talking a little bit about it because I know that the two Crazy Ketos were doing their premiere, and I can't focus on even just my one thing and their stuff at the same time. So I don't know if they finished it up. And I know Rachel was interested in the Turkish coffee as well. Yeah. So, but this is my Turkish coffee setup here. And this is everything and more that you would need to have a good Turkish coffee. What I do have is I have a big glass of water because you owe it. It's kind of cool in the background, the water disappears. But you always serve water with Turkish coffee. And actually, I like to recommend that you serve water with almost all coffee. It's a good way to clean your mouth out and cleanse your palate to get the good flavor from the coffee. But it's especially important with Turkish coffee that you get a nice a drink of water. When we get into the history, we'll talk about some other weird little things surrounding that, but usually it's also a teeny tiny little shot glass type of water, and I have a great big glass because for the everybody here who's keto, we're always thirsty. So yep. I have to lean in to read the screen. Still too blind. So and Renee mentions that she got Shelley and Heath to watch The Exorcist, the director's cut, and fell asleep. That's the best. I love that because I know I don't necessarily have the same reactions as other people. Hey, good evening, Jerry. Nice to see you. Shares happy Halloween and happy birthday to Renee. Happy birthday. I'm not a singer, and you'll be really grateful that I didn't sing happy birthday on my live stream. But what I have here, and because I do want my coffee sooner rather than later, is this is a little butane burner. People will tell you you can use the same thing that you do with siphons, which uses the denatured alcohol, but I, for one, Turkish coffee is already not the speediest. I don't want to wait like 100 years for denatured alcohol to heat up my Ibrik for a coffee. So I have a butane burner, and if you get these little teeny models, most of them will come with this little stand, and you put this little flying saucer stand over your butane, and so your little pots can rest right on top of it. So these, though, are your Turkish coffee pots. And you can get them in a variety of metals, but the most common is copper. I have 3 sizes. This would be a single serving pot. And it's a hammered copper. And then this one is, I believe this will do 6 4-ounce cups of coffee. It's the middle size. It's a 12-ounce. So that's this one, and it has a copper handle as well. And then this is my large family size, and I really wish that I could work the lighting a little better so that you guys could see the awesome pattern on it. I think it's too shiny. Oops. No, I don't. See, and I leaned on the keyboard that I forgot to move, and it just almost ended the live stream. Let's not do that again. I'll just move that out of the way. But, I'm glad that someone else has had the Turkish coffee. But yeah, I'm also a big fan of copper. I love it. And I love all of the awesome designs. So those are the Ibriks, and I'm going to use the single serve tonight. But also very traditional with Turkish coffee is to serve it in these fun little vessels. And I love kitschy things. The more elaborate and ridiculous it is, the more I love it. And I don't mean that to be rude. because I know that some people may not enjoy my calling it kishy or things like that. But I mean, my gosh, look at it. It's just awesome. And it has this, look, the little lid for keeping it warm while you make multiple cups. And it has the little coffee cup right inside. So this is separate. And you have these fun little pieces. So, and Jerry mentions that he has the copper molds hanging in there. That's pretty cool. I actually have vintage Jello molds. See how easy it is to distract me, by the way. Now, we should do a whole stream sometime on my vintage Jello molds. I'll bring out an aspic for you. I won't even make it a horrifying aspic, even though I dig that a lot. Yeah, so a lot of my pieces come from a discount company called Crystalia, and they have lots and lots of little designs and fun pieces in it. So they've got the coffee, and also this is not quite as reflective, so hopefully you can sort of see that it has like the elaborate raised design, embossed design on it. So it's really quite like a fun little decorative piece, very ceremonial almost. And the Turkish coffee is not a ceremony, but it is a very heavily social event. So, and they have it after meals. Like, you know, in America and in a lot of places, you have coffee with your main meal. You have your coffee and breakfast or your coffee and your patisserie. Turkish coffee is an after you've had your meal or before you have your meal. So, and that is what this little serving piece is for, because with your coffee, with your Turkish coffee, they have little treats. Usually a Turkish delight. And a Turkish delight, if you're not familiar with it, is like, it's an interesting texture, like it's like a cross between jelly and a gummy bear texture. And I've been trying super hard to make a keto version, but I'm not quite there. Oh, I gotta stop leaning on stuff. So, but I did make myself a really good facsimile, a good try. And I'll show you the inside of it later. I know, great, you want to see where I took a bite out of the jelly, but I did make a really close effort. It's almost there. And if I can ever get a keto Turkish delight perfected, it's the most important, always have a towel. I will be so thrilled. And I know I'm terrible about keeping up on the comments, so let me just peek in here for a second. Copper. Oh yeah, so Warden, it mentions they've only had the Turkish coffee in there in a restaurant. And so Kat, just in case I wasn't, if you missed it when I said it before, I'm not sure how far behind I am, but it's from this set. This set in particular is from Crystalia. I'd actually like to get myself a nice copper set right from Turkey, but I haven't traveled in like 10 years, and I used to go all around the world and be able to get all kinds of fun stuff, but I haven't in a long time. So I'll be looking forward to being able to do things like that again. So like I said, I'm really, really close on the Turkish delights, not quite there. What I tried this time was I took a hint from Ann Lynn from Keto Asian Flavors, and I put some sodium alginate in with my gelatin. And like I said, it was so close, except for then it affected the color, and the texture is not quite jelly enough yet. It's still a little bit more gummy candy, but it is like super close. And then because I didn't want to eat too many Turkish delights, and I didn't want to be always just traditional, I did get a teeny tiny pumpkin brownie from my local keto store. And I cut it into 4 pieces and gave me 1 piece of it. so that it wasn't like too much carb and junk and stuff, because I don't have this stuff all the time, so I worry that it's going to make my stomach hurt if I'm eating treats on every Sunday night, but it seems to be okay. So those are the main pieces of equipment. The other thing you need is a wooden implement to stir. This is one of my bamboo chopsticks. I also have this little spoon, and it's not metal even though it looks like it, and it's a facsimile of metal. So, and Jerry was kind enough to send me a link to a keto Turkish delight, and I'll tell you that I tried that recipe and it was too marshmallowy. It was also almost there. It was almost there in the flavor, but the texture was, I'm sorry, it was a Turkish marshmallow. So, which I know is not a thing, but that I didn't, it was not quite there. And I'm just, I'm a little extra about stuff. So this little spoon, I don't know what kind of material it actually is because it's not metal, but it feels sturdier than like a plastic. But it could be coated plastic. But the reason, and for the big pot, I have a wooden spoon. It's a teeny wooden spoon, but it's still too big for the single pot. That would be ridiculous. But you use never metal in here because your copper pots are actually tin lined. Eventually your pots will wear out on the inside and you can get them relined. Relined with tin is super cheap. Oh, and Renee mentions that the first Turkish coffee they had was a Istanbul dive where the whole wall was brass machinery. That sounds so cool, and yeah, very typical in a lot of their buildings. That's exactly the kind of thing that you would run across. Now, I will tell you some more things about this, but I'm also going to start preparing the coffee so that I can enjoy it this evening. And just so you know, like a Turkish coffee, I wouldn't have these at night very often because even for me, someone who drinks a lot of coffee and a lot of really strong coffee, it probably will either make me stay up later or I will have some funky dreams because it's really super concentrated. A lot of people say that they don't like Turkish coffee because it's muddy, and someone mentioned that in our Two Crazy Ketos group too. I think that might have been you, Susan. I'm not 100% on that. And that's true because the grounds stay right in there. Now, the way you do Turkish coffee is if you order it in a restaurant, you need to tell them how you want it. And that is either not sweet, light sweet, or regular sweet. And I actually today am going to have sweet because it's nighttime and I just feel like being indulgent. Most times I would just have it straight up, but why not go all out, right? So I have a half a teaspoon of allulose. I'm pretty sure in terms of if you were to have sweet Turkish coffee, one single serving is 3 teaspoons of sugar. Can you imagine? I think that's like candy almost. I don't think I could enjoy it that sweet. A little sweet is just 1 teaspoon. No sweet is 0. So, you dump it right into the pot. And the next thing is the coffee. Now the coffee is super important. And Warden, yes, I've been to Turkey. It's awesome. It's you will definitely have a lot of culture shock traveling there, but it is incredible. Now, this is my favorite coffee for Turkish coffee. It is Mehmet Efendi, and I think what would probably be best is if I post the name and a picture of it in the Two Crazy Ketos group, which I can do tomorrow morning. But I will show you the picture up close. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm figuring out how to show you guys things on the camera. So, but this is the Turkish coffee. It's actually, I know it seems counterintuitive to what I've said about coffee in the past. Because it is ground. It is pre-ground. It's a very fine grind, like an espresso grind. Yep, super sweet. They love and again, some of that is because it's either a prerequisite to having your big savory meal or your after meal or your afternoon social with people. So anyways, I put my sweetener in, and the next thing you do is, where's my spoon? Is you take, it's actually a huge amount of coffee. My one serving, you take this big old honking spoon. This is your regular, your regular table teaspoon or your dessert spoon, but that big old heaping is for one serving, and boom, right into there. And check this out. This is how you do your water. You take the cup that you're using, and there are a lot of different size cups, but they're never really all that large. Let me check in. I can't put the lid back on. Struggles. There we go. So, but this is my kettle. It's just cold. I didn't heat it. You start with cold filtered water. Filtered water is always important with coffee. Not distilled, filtered. And of course it doesn't, I guess in a lot of places it's not filtered, but when you have access to filtered water, it gives you a nicer taste of coffee. Anyways, you fill up the cup you're actually going to serve your coffee in, and that's what you dump in to your e-brick. I'm saying e-brick, but just so you know, some other names for this would be a Chesby or a Jesby, depending on which region you're in. So the next thing you do, and this part I wish I could show you on the camera. Exciting stuff. I think I'm gonna get another little webcam or steal the one periodically from my office and try and get a way where I can angle and do that thing where you switch from camera to camera. But you know, right now I can't even get the live stream started right, so it might be a little too much. But what you do is, before you put it on the heat, and by the way, this is to much controversy, how you make your traditional Turkish coffee. There are lots of people who insist you stir it first. Absolutely 100%, and that's the way I was taught, so that's the way I do it. And what I do is I stir it up good, and the reason I do that is so I make sure that there's no lumpy dry bits of coffee and all the coffee gets good and saturated. And it kind of it also mixes the sweetener in a little bit too, so it doesn't, I worry, it's never happened, but since it's allulose and there's not a lot of fluid in there, I want to make sure that I'm not going to caramelize anything in there. But I'm pretty sure I can't get this on the camera. Oh, maybe I can. So there you can see I've got it all stirred in. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put my little cup back in. I'm going to turn my little heater, my little butane on. So a little too high at first. And once you get that flame going, you turn it the wrong way and it goes way high, and then you turn it back down to like a medium. And there you go. We just set it here on the heat. Now the one thing that is another part of the whole elaborateness of Turkish coffee is that you can't just walk away like you can with a lot of other things, like, oh, I'm letting the water boil, or you know, it's in the drip pot, or I've already I've poured the water over my dripper, or I can hear the percolator from, you know, the other side of the kitchen. Turkish coffee, you have to keep an eye on. That is why they have in, like, if you go to Istanbul and you're in the nicer hotels, they actually have someone who's basically dedicated to the Turkish coffees. It's super cool. And if you're super lucky, you get to see the coolest thing they have. And I actually can't remember the name right now, but they have these big heater boxes that are filled with sand, and they heat the Turkish coffee up in the e-brick in the sand, and that is a nice way to evenly heat it. But when you're heating the Turkish coffee, you're keeping a good eye on it, and you're gonna watch for when it gets close to, like, I don't know what to explain. It's probably gonna boil soon, but what it does is it gets a little bit of the foam, the crema on top, and it starts to move upwards just a little bit. And when it does that, you immediately have to pull it off the heat, and you scoop a little bit in of the foam into the cup, and then we put it back on the heat and we bring it back up to that just as it starts to boil, but you never let it actually crawl up and boil over. Well, I shouldn't say you never let that happen, because of course it does. So yeah, so let's see. Oh, and Jerry's giving us some education. He says that Effendi is the title of nobility, meaning lord or master, especially into the Ottoman Empire, lands of the Caucasus. This is awesome. And you learned that in Lawrence of Arabia. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. I don't remember, but it's hilarious that you mentioned the Ottoman Empire. Because while I'm waiting, I have my notes here to make me stop blathering. And please do interrupt or say things or invite people on the side. And Renee, I did see that you sent me a link with some images, but I can't quite get over there and do this at the same time. So I will take a look at it later. And I'm very excited to take a look at those coffee pictures. Oh, I did all of these. So yeah, so Turkish coffee is actually, yes, from Turkey, but they got it because they were invading Egypt. And when they brought it over and it spread, they actually, Turkish coffee is only Turkish coffee in Turkey. Turkish coffee could be called many other things in various regions, and just kind of go with the flow. You'll know because they've got these set up and it's not a big deal, but they do get all kinds of interesting names to it. But it's in the Arabic Peninsula, it's in Greece, it's in the Balkans, and North Africa. This style of coffee is super popular all through the Mideast. So, and I know I try to give you guys my geeky moment to let you know, like, when Turkish coffee was first discovered, but to be honest, we actually don't really know that, because we don't know that it wasn't already being utilized well before we've discovered through archaeological excavations and such documentation. But we think somewhere around the year 1000. So if anyone ever gives you crap about your coffee thing, just remember you are a history buff and staying true to your love of history. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Renee. I can't wait to take a look at those pictures. That'll be awesome. So, yeah. So anyway, so we think around the year 1000, which is how it actually wound up in Yemen, because back then that is when they invaded Egypt, and then they brought the coffee that they discovered back to Yemen. And even by then, it had actually already spread, and it was in Cairo and Mecca. And so from there, but the governor who brought it back, that was Otomir Pasha. And he introduced it to the Sultan the Magnificent. So Solomon the Magnificent. Can you imagine the ego you have to call yourself the Magnificent and then brutalize all your people to make sure that they used your proper name? But those were the times, right? Anyways, so the Sultan loved coffee, Because, well, who doesn't love coffee? Because it makes you feel amazing, especially a Turkish coffee. You are energized and good to go. And he loved it. So he actually took like parts of his staff and he was like, find a way to make it better. And they did. They started grinding it in the molcajete. And I wish I had remembered to bring mine down here, even though mine is a stone molcajete from Mexico. But it's pretty cool. And they started doing that, and they developed the e-brick to brew it, and so they were pretty awesome. And that was something that, as the Sultan and his staff developed these, they give me a second to recompose. Yes, they introduced it to more wealthy people as they came, the Sultan and the other elites in the area, and they all started drinking coffee. And they all started developing and hiring people and training staff. And they actually, the mortar and pestle. I'm making sure I didn't lose my place. But so the staff, they started calling them the Kveki Usta, and those would be like our modern day equivalent of a barista, but only this was their deal, making these Turkish coffees for the rich people. Now, Heath the Magnificent would be hilarious. I will laugh so hard. I'm gonna, even though my butane heater went out, so I had to relight it. So we'll get my coffee going again because I would really like to have it. So, but it started to spread throughout the region, and more people, and these the Kveki Ustas, they started opening coffee shops. Now, important to know, or at least I feel it's important to know, these places are only for men. And before there were coffee houses, the men would gather at the mosques and have coffee. They didn't, in like some regions where men gathered and they and they would have drinks or elaborate dinners. They don't have drinks. They don't have alcohol there, so they had coffee. And so the men would gather and they would do their business and they would have their social time, and coffee houses and coffee gatherings at the mosques were for men. Me, how often do I drink Turkish coffee? I'm going to say I have so many different coffee devices and loves. It's not that often. Couple times a month. Maybe more right now because I've had it for a couple days and I do really love the taste a lot. So, and it smells good. So now I'm gonna just bump this up a smidge. So, but yeah, so a couple two, 3 times a month because I have pour over. Sometimes we have Vietnamese coffees. I love French press coffees, and of course the good old percolator. Sometimes we have coffee. We have cowboy coffees outside. So it all just sort of has to rotate. That's right. Now the fun part, because as Jerry mentioned, Ottoman, he was the Grand Vizier. And he actually did almost the unforgivable, at least in my book, and to many, many wealthy people. He was a servant to the Sultan and extremely loyal, and he was concerned that rebels were using the coffee houses to meet up. And so he actually shut down the coffee houses and said no more coffee. So everybody was mad. It's almost like how we had prohibition in the 1920s with our alcohol, only it was their coffee, because if someone got found having a little coffee house or having little coffee gatherings, the punishment was swift and brutal. It was not a forgiving thing because they were so concerned about the rebellion and really anyone who would speak ill or act out against the Sultan. So, but as all things come to an end, eventually they did reestablish their coffee, just like we did with our prohibition of the alcohol. So that was something. Can you imagine? I can't imagine, but just what an incredible thing to think about, how risky it was that you would be going to a secret, a secret, hidden, illicit coffee house. I have to say, if they took my coffee away, I might have to. And of course, then we have to overthrow the government for taking my coffee away. I joke because I know there's a lot of really important things going on, but it was serious business for them back then, protecting the Sultan and squashing rebellion. It was a huge ordeal. So, and I know it's killing me that my coffee is still not ready. But it is, I can feel the heat coming off of it. And so it's going to be close now. I can see at the top some little bubbles forming and that little bit of the dark foam. I have to give a stand up to look at it a little bit to make sure that I'm not missing anything. The other thing that some people do, and I don't know if it's necessary or not, but they take it and they do tap. I feel like that's more ceremony than any actual thing that it's doing. But they say that if you do that, it helps make the ground settle towards the bottom. So I'm going to pretend, because I like making that tink, tink, tink sound. It makes me fancy. So, yeah. So, and Jerry's mentioning lockdown and that having prevented going out. Oh, it's fuzzy. That must have been my secret cue. I'm so excited, my coffee. So I'm going to use my little fancy spoon and I'm going to scoop out some foam and you put it in the bottom of the cup. And I have a little paper over here that I've got my utensils on, but then I'm just going to put it right back on and keep a good eye on it. I don't think you can see. Yeah, you can see, and you can see where I wasn't as careful as maybe I could have been, but there it is how it looks. And it should just take another couple seconds here to bring it all back up. Oh, I'm ready. So, and once the coffee's ready, we got topic number 2 that I promised you, but it'll be really high level since it's already 7:20. Oh, it's starting to do that little bit of a ripple. I do wish I could get the up close for you because it's so awesome. And there it goes. So I'm just shutting off my heat. And what you do is, it is because all the grounds are in there. It is a very slow, careful, and deliberate pour. And if you're doing 2 servings, you'll pour a little bit in one and then the other, and you'll carry it back and forth. And that is for equal distribution of the crema. And also so that no one gets stuck with all the grounds from the bottom. You do want to keep an eye as you pour to make sure that when you start getting to the sludge, that you stop pouring. Now, when you're done drinking the Turkish coffee, there is a sludge at the bottom. Even though, and I don't know if you'll be able to see on the camera or not, but yeah, you can see you can see there's some coffee there, but I'm not going to pour it because the bottom is coated with all the grounds. And if I try to get that last, it's not good to the last drop. The last drop needs to stay there. And I'm just going to put that to the side on my paper so it doesn't burn my little cloth. And I'm going to move my little dish, my little butane heater to the side. And I'll see if I can show you this. So you can sort of see the crema, and also you can see the little hole where I'm not the best pour. But So it does have a nice foam on the top. Hey, Two Crazy Ketos. That was some amazing steak you had on your premiere today. Oh, it made me really jealous. Thank you. So I've already made the Turkish coffee, but I tell you what I'll do is I will make a summary and send it out for you later. But I do have my 2 little treats to go. Turkish coffee is always served with a little teeny treat. And almost always it's a Turkish delight, but sometimes it can be a sticky sweet like a baklava. And but also really important is that spicy aspect to it. I will tell you that some Turkish coffees, if they're doing their own, will sometimes grind cardamom into it. However, as much as I love cardamom, I love it in a lot of things. I don't like it in my coffee. So I'm just a weirdo about that. So did everyone have a good Halloween? I'm curious as to what different parts of Halloween some of you may celebrate or what kind of things you do. I know Two Crazy Ketos has like 9 million children that they distribute to, and that's pretty amazing. Oh God, it's so good. And I got it just right on the sweetness. It's not too sweet, but I got just a hint. Like I said, most of the time, Turkish coffee, if you're not careful when you order, they will hugely sweeten it. It is like almost like coffee syrup. So, oh, and Jerry is helping me with the history. Jerry, you're almost as nerdy as me, and I love it. It's and that's not an insult. That is a compliment, just so you know. Jerry mentions that the rebellion I mentioned was because the tax on tea in New England, which was the start of our revolution. The men in Turkey would get together and plot against the Sultan authority as it was a meeting area. Oh, yeah. So, but, you know. Oh, yeah, and Jerry's also sharing that he likes the grounds in the coffee. When we do a really sweet one, I do like the grounds. But and he says that in Indonesia they have a similar called the kopi tubruk. It's an Indonesian style coffee where coarse coffee grounds are boiled along with solid sugar, resulting in a thick drink similar to the Turkish coffee. And that is, when we were talking earlier about some people not liking it because it's like mud, it is thicker, it's more viscous than your average American coffee. Outside of America and Canada, well, I shouldn't say America, outside of the United States and Canada, most coffees are thicker than our average. But we do have some nice, robust, delicious beans, and we are blessed with a plenitude of styles of brewing it to bring out the flavor. I know I mentioned the type of coffee before, but I should also mention that Turkish coffee is our Arabica beans. So sometimes when I get to talking about coffee, someone says, and I've said, yeah, sure, you could, in theory, use just any old coffee and grind it like an espresso grind, but that doesn't make it Turkish coffee. Arabica beans make it Turkish coffee. And as someone pointed out to me, the utter horror, yes, Starbucks serves Arabica coffee beans. However, their roasting process takes them far too far, and that is why they have such a bitter flavor. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it is not my cup of tea, nor is it my cup of coffee. It's too bitter. I know a lot of people who do love an extra bitter. I like extra bite, and I don't know how to explain the difference between the two, but this is bitey, that is bitter, this is not bitter. Yeah, we have trick or treat going on upstairs, and I was half convinced that I should try to stream up there so that we could all enjoy our trick or treaters, but the other chaos of kids and Attila and my wife and everybody running around all crazy, neighbors and kids, and my dog is up there attracting people because he's dressed like a sushi. I thought it's going to be too much, so I just came down here to our little basement studio. I'm going to eat my Turkish delight. I actually do have the spicy flavor part. One weird thing is that it was bright red until I put the sodium alginate in there, and then it turned brown. But if you have someone who's seen Turkish Delight, kind of I can get it. You can sort of see that it does have that jellyish texture. So it's really close. I'm almost there. The other mistake a lot of people make with Turkish Delights is that they only use... Yeah, I did see, and Renee asked if I saw her greyhounds that dressed as the At and Yoda, and yes, they were delightful on the live stream. They were great, and yeah, fantastic. But sometimes people try to make Turkish Delights, and they only coat them in powdered sugar. Real Turkish Delight does not have sugar. It has sugar in it, but it also has usually cornstarch. So it's like the anti-keto food. So what I used was a little bit of coconut flour and a little bit of allulose to coat it. And I actually like that because they do usually blend some coconut up into their sugar to coat with the cornstarch to coat their Turkish Delight. It's actually quite good. Which, by the way, I always have a towel. I forgot to mention this to you. With the Turkish pots, sometimes these copper handles get hot. So in addition to wiping my fingers on it tonight, if the handle gets hot, you do want a little cloth to sometimes grab it. So that's an important thing to say. And just to also tell you, don't get fussed about your pots. I know mine are all nice and shiny. I get fussed about my pots, but you don't have to. Copper is lovely when it gets that dark patina, but if you do want shiny, beautiful copper, you do not have to pay a giant fortune to polish them up or get them serviced to get polished for you. Rub salt and lemon juice and rub it and slather it on there, and it will clean them right up. That is all you have to do. And especially a smooth one like this, like the hammered one does not get tarnished nearly as easy, but this smooth one, you touch it and it's got and then suddenly it's already got a tarnish print on it. What is up? You know, it's so sensitive to that. And so I just take it up, and when I wash it, you wash with a little bit of dish soap on the inside, give it a rinse, then you rub it with your lemon juice and your salt, give it another rinse, and it is sparkling new again. Yeah, I didn't like the xanthan gum for the cornstarch. I think that I'm leaning towards the sodium alginate as the better thickener. The xanthan gum, so whereas the sodium alginate hasn't taken it quite jelly enough, the xanthan gum took it too far and it was slimy. So I'm so close. Maybe I'll try and blend the two and see and dial it in. It's super close. And when I do, I will share that with everybody. So, I did bring my sheets to keep myself organized. And yeah, it was super close. I think maybe I think the blending is a good idea. So the next thing though is it's also Halloween today, and so just so you know, like the Halloween is almost like several days. I'm gonna see. I have two nerd things today. We did our Turkish coffee. Now we get to talk about holidays. Yay! So if you know a lot about Halloween and a lot of the holidays, especially from different cultures, share it in the chat and I will read it out to us. But Kat asked if the amount of allulose that I used made it the right sweetness. It made the right sweetness for me. I will tell you that no one else in my family would like it at this level because they like it when it's syrupy sweet. And we use, if I'm making it for anyone else in the house, I have to triple the allulose that I use. Or what I actually prefer to do is use this amount of allulose and then add in another half teaspoon of the Lecanto monk fruit erythritol blend. I don't know why, but I learned this from Chris at Keto Chow. I'm pretty sure it was Chris at Keto Chow who mentioned that if you mix the sweeteners, suddenly it brings them all up better. That all of them are good on their own, but when you mix them together, suddenly they are really glorious. And he was 100% correct on that, and I do love blending them now. Right now, this is actually almost not sweet. It's just a very tinned in there, which is good for me. And because I almost always like just plain black coffee. So, yeah. Anyways, back to my Halloween. Halloween, it's actually also, originally it was called Samhain, and a lot of people now are going back to celebrating Samhain. Yes, it's Samhain, not Samhain, in case anyone has heard it the other way. It's Samhain. It actually is Celtic in origins. I don't know why, but a lot of people don't realize that it was a Celtic festival. And in their festivals, what they used to do was they used to build like great big ceremonial bonfires, and they would all dress up in costumes and have big, loud, festive parties and sometimes little parades. And they did that because they believed that right around this time period, the veil between the living and the dead was thinner, and they needed to make sure that they kept the spirits away. So they wanted to make sure they were properly warding off the ghost. So, but as always, as Christianity became stronger all across the area, by the 8th century, which pope was it? Should have wrote that down in my notes. Pope George. Pope George changed it, and he made it All Saints Day. Yeah, but he used a lot of the same things that they were doing in the Samhain ceremonies. So it was essentially the same holiday, but he rebranded it as a Christian holiday, as they were working hard on a lot of that conversion. And over time, the day before Samhain, or All Saints Day, it became the day before is our All Hallows Eve, so it's a little bit more extended. Yeah, and Two Crazy Ketos is adding that allulose is only 70% as sweet as sugar, so you need a lot of it to make it the same as sugar. And erythritol is sweet, but a lot of people do experience that cooling effect. When you blend it, that cooling effect is not as bad as what I have found. Stevia, honestly, a few products have worked the stevia in where I'm okay with it, but I just don't even bother. I find I can't handle the licorice taste. Two Crazy Ketos mentions bitter, and I taste licorice. I hate licorice. I hate licorice more than Joe does. So, yeah, it's not there for me. My live stream is flipping to red, so I'm sorry if you get a little broken up. I hope that it'll be fine pretty quick. Yeah, and Dogfather mentions that he has a big bag of the Lecanto that he got at Costco while they still had that brand. and he was going to run it through the Vitamix to make it the confectioners to help dissolve in liquids, and that is absolutely perfect. That does work. I actually was too lazy to get my Vitamix out to grind it. I used the NutriBullet, and it was perfect. So, and Too Crazy Ketos is giving a little more hints about the stevia and the erythritol to adjust the sweetness without the cooling effect or the bitter effect. So those are pretty cool to keep track of. Oh, and Dogfather mentions in the Lutheran tradition, today is also Reformation Day, usually the first Sunday of November, but it was today. So that's kind of cool facts. All Saints Day. So as things evolved throughout and people were migrating, and sailing the seas and moving to different countries, and cultures were blending more, and religions in different regions were making huge changes. We'll tell you that is how things started to change in the 1800s to more like what we do today, where people were thinking of All Hallows Eve and Halloween as a community event and community celebrations. So, and neighborly get-togethers. So there was a little more of that. I will tell you that in the early days of discovery in the United States, they put the big kibosh down on any such thing. No Halloween. Puritanism was absolutely, that's a no. So it took some time before that came back around again in our area. And then we get to what I am in the midst of is Dia de los Muertos. A lot of people only see what's portrayed on TV, and they think of elaborate sugar skull makeup and our giant festivals. But actually, it's a pretty serious time for us, and so today would be Halloween, but tomorrow the 1st is it's El Dia de los Inocentes, and what that means is it's the Day of the Children. So it's where we honor and celebrate our children and those who will follow us. And then on November 2nd, that is when we have All Souls Day, and that is what most cultures here in the United States think is our Dia de los Muertos, but it's actually the combination of all 3 days. But All Souls Day is very reminiscent of that ancient Celtic festival. It is where we also feel that the veil is dropped between the living and the dead, but we're not fearful of the dead. Instead, we're celebratory and we welcome our ancestors back. And that's why we make a display called an ofrenda, where we have our marigolds and offerings for our ancestors and our beloved persons. So it's not just your relatives. If there's someone special in your life that you think will want to come see you, you make sure you put their pictures on the ofrenda so that they know that you're honoring them. You leave them gifts and their pastries and sugar treats and things like that. The idea is that you're not only are you honoring them, but you're preparing them and celebrating with them and keeping their memory alive, so that when they cross back over, they are sustained. So it's a difference that of welcoming and celebration as opposed to the fear, and so it's really interesting. I love finding like all those ties between the different countries and how our different religions and influences have weaved together and grown. And it's like there's always those subtle threads going through that bring it together, but also they're so much different. So, and then so those were some fun facts there. As I've let this sit and it's a little warmer, Now it's almost closer to the Turkish delight, but it's too soft. It's so close. It's making me crazy. But it's very sticky. So, what else is going on this evening with everybody? Oh, hey, Shauna. I'm so glad that you are here. I love your presence because you're always such a wonderful light in the whole room. So, but yeah, so those were the main takeaways I had on both the Turkish coffee. I'm interested in what questions you have or what other thoughts you might have. And if not, I'm going to ramble on for just a couple more minutes. And I'm going to eat this little pumpkin brownie bite that I got from, well, it was actually a whole brownie that I cut into 4 pieces. But I got this from our local store, the Keto Cave. They just recently opened. They have a small retail outlet that they just opened here, and they have a little bistro in Newark, and their food is fantastic, and they are full on board with keto. They are keto evangelists. They are huge community supporters all around, and so I'm pretty big on cooking for myself, and I often like. Well, I don't know if I could do a keto version of Irish coffee. The lack of the Irish whiskey would make that pretty hard, but I'll work on something. I actually do have something with Joe in mind that I think that he will like, and maybe I want to share something different next week, but maybe the week after that we can. I've got that for it. I've got that going. It'll be a surprise. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is yet. But anyway, so the Keto Cave, they this morning they posted out that someone vandalized their store. They threw a rock in, went inside. Now, fortunately, their store is not fully open yet. They're opening some very limited hours, strictly just for their regular customers. And they're bringing their packaged foods, heat and eat from their bistro, and a little bit of some commercial products. But they don't even have their full register in. Their shelving hasn't come in. They're impacted by the supply chain. So while they got broken into, there was, unless the thieves wanted to take some pretty tasty dinners, they didn't get away with much. Unfortunately, as it turns out, there was a whole rash of these break-ins right in that little section because they got to Walgreens, they got into Le Chatelaine, a little bakery. But my heart was just, I saw their faces, and it just was like heartbreaking. So I thought about the fact that I've been nearly keeling over from how much this intense training at work and trying to do my regular job. And I thought the best thing I can do is buy product from them. So I bought several dinners that I will be eating for my breakfast throughout the week. And I thought that was probably the best thing ever. But I just like, wow, their faces, they were so torn. Like how, they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to be good community people. And they've barely been here. And supposedly it's a fairly bougie part of town, and look what happens right away. Mm. Oh, this pumpkin brownie is on fire too. It is delicious. Also, the other thing about the bistro and the baking and all of the things that she does, it's really good. Like she didn't miss out, and she had a bistro before they were keto, and when they went keto, they went in full bore. So she's been a professional cook and a bistro chef for a really long time. She does not skimp on the flavor. Fantastic. She knows how to use spices and seasoning, and it shows. So Yeah. Um, right now, they don't do mail order, but they are hoping to once they get a little more situated in their retail. So, and the warden, oh, you're breaking my heart. As the warden mentions that they'll add some star anise or anise seed to their coffee for a licorice taste. Oh, no, 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 not for me. But now I know anytime any licorice gets a little too near for me, you'll have to take care of that for because no, there is no way. I even foolishly one time pre-keto uh, had the opportunity for like the fanciest absinthe, and it was such a beautiful elaborate thing, what with the drip and the special spoons and the sugar cube, and everybody was so excited about like the specialness. It was like a $300 bottle of absinthe, and let me tell you guys, I almost threw up because it was so licoricey and nasty. No. Hey Rhonda, you also may not have got your notification proper because I totally screwed up the stream. I seem to be too dumb to start it up right because this happened last week too. But I don't know. I might have to do like a couple test going lives this week, and don't rush to join because they're not going to be real lives. It's just me figuring out what the heck is going wrong between my clicking the button to the broadcast and it not actually picking it up properly. So, but yeah. I'm much more fond of cinnamon in coffee. Thank you, Rhonda. But now I have eaten my two little treats, and that was more treat than I needed. Ooh. So, oh, and Too Crazy Keto, since you missed it, this is my little Turkish serving set for two. So it has this lovely little lacy look to the outer shells. So, and the little outer shell to the little porcelain cup. And then, of course, it has the little serving tray for your little dainty Turkish delights. And then this awesome embossed tray. And this whole little set is from Crystalia. So, yeah. And for being, actually metal, it was very affordable. I guess Crystalia, some of their stuff might be a little chintzy, but this stuff is not. It is really nice, and I really highly recommend if you wanted to pick something up like this, a little ceremonial fancy piece. They are extremely reasonable and really great to work with on getting all your fun little kitschy things. So, but thank you, Shauna. I love that you guys are saying all these lovely complimentary things, but Renee, who's seen the film, knows that it is actually horrendous. Yeah, but I will say they were teeny tiny because they were very teeny tiny. One bite, and I used like 3 bites to eat it to extra savor it. Your one little regular brownie that I cut it into 4 pieces, so I literally a very reasonable controlled portion is what I was going for. So, yep. As for my desserts, if I could have just had a piece of that steak today that you had in the premiere off the sous vide and then a quick flash sear, man, that would have been heaven for me. It looked amazing. So we're actually trying to plan for Thanksgiving. And originally I was like, let's do like last year, a big feast. I'll make the turkey and the prime rib crown roast and I don't think Shauna would like the movie. In case anyone is interested, it's a riff on the women of Midsummer. So if you are not into esoteric art, absolutely, boy, I don't even know what the right word, because they call it horror, but actually it's horrific. And but it is also extremely artsy. It won several awards for filmmaking because it's also a really spectacular movie, but it is a hard watch. Midsummer. So, and that was where I got my little peasant dress and my little headdress. And so, if you've seen the movie, yeah, it is very. And I'll tell you, the members of my family did not especially appreciate the fact that earlier in the day I thought it was great to run around and offer people tea in my nice glass teapot. I'm a riot to live with, let me tell you. So, oh, Shauna mentioned that they watched Silence of the Lambs yesterday. That's actually a really fantastic movie as well. But I have to say I like the book better. I almost always like the book better, which makes a lot of sense being as I'm someone with a PhD in literature. Granted, I'm very specialized with English literature, but yes. So, but yeah. So, what I know, thank you. I I delight in it. What else? Anybody have any questions or anybody need repeats about the Turkish coffee things? I know some of you were late, so if we need to repeat, I won't make everybody re-listen to to the history, of course, but we could talk about a lot of different things. Let's see. Oh, and Dogfather mentions that he loves the Midsummer Murders. He has all 21 seasons because that's a British drama. Don't mistake that with Midsummer, the film. Yeah, Rhonda, I think what I'm gonna do though is I might put together like a picture collage and share some of the things, and especially like some stuff for the Crystalia, as long as Too Crazy Keto doesn't mind the extra linkage, because I don't want to like step on any toes, and I'm not trying to spam. I don't want to do that. This stream was not to like get like some kind of big popular stream going, but more for like those of us who've connected to really be able to get together. Plus, also, I just love sharing my nerdity with people who also seem to not be in distress by my constant geekery. So that's what this stream is for. Let's see. Oh, and Renee mentions that the manager where they was telling them about was giving them a how-to on the Kana. Wow, that's cool. I'm pretty sure that the Texas de Brazil here is not giving away any trade secrets. That's good, Jerry. It's fine. We're about to end at 8 o'clock anyways. The stream is from 6:30 to 8, and I really do enjoy your company. So, yeah. That's the only thing I miss is not having Miriam say nerd, nerd, nerd for me like she does for Chris. But, Miriam is not my wife, so that's okay. I can get my sass at home anytime. But, Picana is a rolled piece of sirloin. And we actually, at Keto Palooza, where we had it was one of the meats that they brought, and if you remember, it came on the skewer in like a stack of 3, and the meat looked like a C, and they would slice off the edges. That was the picana, so it had like that sear and a light seasoning on it, and they brought 2 versions of that. And so it's the sirloin, and it's been seasoned and rolled and then rotisseried, and they have the regular picana, and then most places usually have regular and a garlic version. And so, yep. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that Heath and Shelley are getting appropriate, sass. So, Yeah, so you did have it at Keto Palooza and probably at whatever Brazilian steakhouse that you went to with Lynette. So, yes, you do ask for the. I always ask for the edges if I can, and usually try to get them to slice me too. But I know that that's sometimes not fair to the other people at the table because it's the best piece. But it's also why they only serve a few people at a time, and then they run back and re-rotisserie it to get the edge more edges. Uh, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate when I get the inside and it's nice and rare, but the seasoning on that extra nut lovely crispy fat bit is really just my favorite part. And I have reached the mud portion of the Turkish coffee, so sadness that it's gone, but also I'm not going to do another one because it's 8 o'clock at night and I have to be up to try and do my regular job before I start training. So that's going to be a slice of crazy again this week. Yeah, I agree. I love that nice fatty bit on the picana. It's it's good because they don't trim the sirloin down to, you know, a piece of shoe leather. That's I got that once by accident at a store because I did the click list type stuff or the curbside pickup, and I ordered New York strip steaks, and they substituted oh, what was it? Oh, top sirloin, trimmed zero fat. Oh my God, it was so hard to eat. It was the worst. Oh, it was so miserable because there was zero fat. I even tried to inject it with like butter and I rolled it up around fatty stuff, but the meat itself had just been so trimmed that it was not good. I wound up actually eventually like I just basically I pressure cooked it to death in the Instapot to break it down into like a stew, and that helped it a lot. But man, I was like, that was my decision now to never allow any substitutes on meat. I'd rather just not have it than have to go through something like that. Keto Cuban coffee is doable. The Irish coffee is the real struggle. I can help out with a Cuban coffee. I know. Caboodle there mentions, yeah, it's yeah, leaving the fat, tripping all the fat all the way to 0%. It said on the package 0%. I'm like, dang. So yeah, they do load it with sugar. I'd love to be able to convince more restaurants to start using some of these alternatives. Um, you know, we actually have been pretty strict about not going out very much. Keto Palooza was really like my first major exposure back out to the outside world since March of 2020. So I just like leaped into the deep end and for, you know, basically that was a pretty adventurous, but we're at the point now where it's like everybody's just sort of given up and we're out. So one of the places, now that I'm thinking on the Turkish coffee again, we have a place here called Cafe Istanbul, and it is a chain, but our local chain has some people who are running it who are fantastic and have kind of broken outside the box. And I'm going to take them a couple samples of my sweetener and see if I can work with them a little bit. But because they've been pretty groovy, they've done some cool stuff for me in the past. They actually have made the kebabs for me, and we've ordered from a vendor some of the cauliflower rice. And so so they've made my kebabs and seasoned the cauliflower rice like their rice, and that was pretty awesome. I thought that was really going above and beyond service that they didn't have to do for me. So that was pretty good. And technically Irish whiskey is 0 carb, but it's alcohol, which is a disruptor. So while occasionally once or twice a year I'm cool with that, I try, if I want to make something that I want to have more on the regular. I really want to find a way to replicate those things so that it's reminiscent of the taste and flavor, but without a disruptor that increases my risk with the seizures. And I'm not anti-alcohol because I do plan, but it's a lot of effort for me because I have to plan to like take my medicine at certain times because I can't have alcohol with the medicine, but I can't skip medicine, and it gets very elaborate. But I do like on my birthday, I go through all the effort so I can have a glass of wine. I come once in a while to have a special treat for, on a special holiday like Dia de los Muertos. I will probably have a bourbon. I'm very selective, but yeah. So, and Mr. Too Crazy Keto mentions going to Mr. Chris's Coffee Depot. He has different ways of making coffee, including where you pour it into the beaker and the sun brews it. Yes, we will talk about that eventually. Those are pretty cool. And, but it's 8 o'clock. So as much as I adore connecting with you all, that does mean it's time to end the stream. And not by accident this time. So I promise I will practice and figure out what is going awry with the starts. I'm technically proficient, but not in all areas, which no one would be. So we'll try it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Kaboodle. I really appreciate that compliment, and I do love sharing. And like I said, I've got something special next week, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. So, but I promise it'll be fun, or at least interesting to me, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.